the next generation of lifestyle awareness that will transform your life significantly. Hi, welcome to Living Wow Out Loud. I'm your host, Callie Ray, founder of the Living Wow Center and author of the book, 8 Lessons Lupus Taught Me from Surviving to Thriving with Autoimmune Diseases. Living Wow is a lifestyle of choice and intention that was born from the truth that, number one, your body is designed to heal if you give it the environment to do so. Number two, you don't need a label or permission to be the expert in your own body. And number three, more than 80% of all diseases can be prevented or reversed by lifestyle. Unfortunately, this isn't what we're taught in our standard American diet and lifestyle culture. This podcast is a voice of hope and community where you will learn how to live a life of thriving that honors and embraces those three truths. Though you are an individual, you are not alone, and you can thrive living wow too. I learned a lesson recently that will likely find its way into the new updated version of 8 Lessons Lupus Taught Me from Surviving to Thriving with Autoimmune Diseases. Now, I don't know if that's what the title is going to be, but there definitely is a new book coming. But because I know that you are likely experiencing many of the same challenges, I'm going to share here and now rather than wait for the next book. If you're wondering how this inside work is relevant to a lifestyle program or nutritional healing and thriving with autoimmune diseases, you can remember that our physical health is an outward manifestation of what's happening on the inside. You must begin to understand and hear what your body is telling you about what is going on inside your heart and mind if you are going to be able to heal physically. As I wrestle with doubt and fear, once again, I had 2 experiences culminating in a lesson that blew my mind, and it gave me hope during dark times. Maybe you will gain insight and hope as well. Maybe you'll even be inspired to take action and do some internal gardening. One morning, I had a glimpse of my heart, and much to my dismay, I recognized that a wall was again beginning to build around my heart. I'm familiar with this wall. Maybe you have one too. It's a coping mechanism where I take the things that are said or done that have the potential to threaten or hurt me and make them into boulders that stack up with each new insult or hurt until they create a wall that protects my heart from the perceived hurt. I learned to recognize this behavior years ago and had done the work to tear down the lifetime wall around my heart. I should have recognized the telltale signs of the wall going up again. Fear, disappointment, frustration, defensiveness, hypersensitivity, apathy, anger, resentment, and disconnection. Honestly, I did feel the change in my heart, but life was hurling so many hits so quickly that I fell into autopilot. This autopilot behavior is to begin to fortify the walls to protect the heart because it just can't take another hit. So the boulders start accumulating, and before I realize it, there's a half wall completely surrounding my heart. Comments that normally would have run off my back cut deeply, and circumstances that normally would fuel me instead became crippling. I just become more sensitive and more defensive and more critical and more resentful. And with each of those, another boulder is put around my heart, and I look at it, and all of a sudden I see, oh my goodness, I've got a half wall built up around my heart again. I can see it in my life, and I can feel it in my body. I've got to get rid of those rocks. So I asked the Lord to take the rocks away from my heart that are building the wall. That's when the second experience happened. Do you remember the parable of the sower in Matthew 13 of the New Testament? Jesus was talking to the people and said, quote, "A sower went out to sow, and as he sowed, some seeds fell along the path, and the birds came and devoured them. Other seeds fell on rocky ground, where they did not have much soil, and immediately they sprang up, since they had no depth of soil, but when the sun rose, they were scorched. And since they had no root, they withered away. Other seeds fell among thorns, and the thorns grew up and choked them. Other seeds fell on good soil and produced grain, some 100-fold, some 60, some 30. That's Matthew chapter 13, verses 3 through 8 of the English Standard Version. It's probably no accident that this was the message at church as I was searching my heart and trying to do some wall excavation. The Lord had helped me see the wall and was taking it down for me. That's when I found that under those rocks, the soil is so depleted. That very night, I was watching a gardening show, and they were talking about the soil and how important soil is for growing. The gardener ran some soil analysis on the new property that she had recently purchased in the Skagit Valley. The soil was so depleted because it had been overworked. Such harsh chemicals had been used on it for so long that the nutrient profile was non existent. Because of the depletion, the diseases, the powdery mildew, the spider mites, and the aphids were wreaking havoc because the plants didn't have what they needed to grow. So the diseases came in and were running rampant. They had to treat it more aggressively. And of course, they didn't want to do it with chemicals. They needed to do it with nutrients to support the soil. I realized that that's what happened with my heart too. First, I want to take down the walls around it, and then I need to turn these piles of stinking shit into compost because the soil has been so depleted that it can't grow anything. It's in those times of trial that the shit can be broken down. It's the scraps and the ratio of green and brown and the earthworms and the beneficial insects that create the fertilizer. This analogy recognizes the faith through our trials and the things that we don't want to experience, and the leftover carcasses of our wins and our losses as they come together to create this compost. When we put that compost on our depleted soil, it creates an environment that creates soil that is so much better for things to grow. It nourishes and creates that opportunity where it couldn't have grown without it. So first, take out the retaining wall. It's not protecting anything. It's just making it so that it's harder for the good stuff to get in because you've got this barrier in place. Finish taking it down or don't let it build anymore. And then, instead of leaving the shit piled up all around the edges of the wall, nurture it and turn it and recognize it as a beneficial compost and spread it. Spread that compost all over and work it in to loosen that hard clay soil. Whether it's just to loosen up that hard clay and allow those nutrients and those beneficials to get in there and work, it will also create an environment that is beautiful and healing. That is the environment where your new world, your new life, and your new opportunities can take root and grow and blossom and flourish into a garden that is beautiful and productive and creates flowers, fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds that can provide beauty and nourishment and can also continue to propagate. So work your soul, work in the compost, and allow those piles of stink to become beneficial to create a healing environment. Plant new, beautiful seeds for all the crops that you want, and then water your heart with the living Christ and make sure it's in full sun. Don't allow the darkness to shadow it. Feel it nourish and feel it flourish. You have successfully amended the soil of your heart with the beautiful compost of your life. Now share the fruits of your labor and save the seeds so that you can pay it forward and help others do the same. Hey, if you find value here on the Living Wow Out Loud podcast, will you please share it with your friends and take a minute to rate it on the platform that you're listening on? That's how we live wow out loud. You know that more people need hope and they need the messages shared. And that's how we get recognized among all the noise. This is where you find your voice. Will you please share and subscribe and rate so that we can grow? After my personal transformation from surviving to thriving with autoimmune diseases, I was completely astounded that the experience was not what I expected it to be. Instead of resenting my body and being forever trapped with a legacy of bad genes, as I had believed would be my fate, I looked and felt 20 years younger. I had dropped weight that had plagued me for decades, eliminated chronic pain that no doctor, therapy, or medicine could relieve, and found energy that I hadn't had since I was 16 years old. Because this is not what I expected, and because I wish someone would have told me that there is another way than sad, I wrote the book, 8 Lessons Lupus Taught Me from Surviving to Thriving with Autoimmune Diseases. As I began to share the book and the message of change your story, Living Wow was born. After years of continuing to learn and study how and why lifestyle has such an impact on disease and the world being torn apart by a global pandemic, I can't stand by any longer keeping it to myself. You have to understand that the power is in your hands. The power is in your body. The power is in your lifestyle. The Living Wow Center is a holistic wellness practice that utilizes the framework of the Living Wow lifestyle to identify system failures or maintenance needs. Whether you just need a tune up or a complete systems overhaul, we support you as an individual to get back out on the journey and living wow. We will work with you to determine levels of function, needs, tools, resources, and or providers that may be best equipped to guide you as you step out of the negative health cycle and turn it into a positive health cycle. The Living Wow Center offers a revolutionary, comprehensive approach to healing, coaching, and support that is necessary in our complex, sad world. Schedule your complimentary consultation today to see how Living Wow can support you. If you're not sure or you need support, consider joining the Living Wow Challenge on the 1st to the 10th of each month at the Living Wow Center. The Living Wow Challenge is a 10-day experience with a menu full of good mood foods that support natural detoxification and healing of inflammation, which is common in every autoimmune disease. In 10 short days, you will feel the effects of less pain, more energy, and the momentum to embrace living wow in a sad world. You get recipes for each meal, assessments and objective measurements so you can judge where you are, where you want to go, supportive daily affirmations and daily word of scripture guidance, personal support, group coaching, and convenience of online access to fit your schedule. Living Wow is all about thriving, so you can bet the focus is on adding in so much amazing nutrition and content that the sad is crowded out. We don't believe in restrictions and rules, but rather focus on intention and education. As you're empowered with nutritional healing, you will recognize the ills of sad and naturally begin to recognize the choices that are all about wow and living your best life. Please bring your friends, bring your family, bring anyone you care an ounce about. Come and join the Living Wow Challenge to get a taste of wow. It's time for you to remember how good it feels to feel good. Wow, you just finished another episode of Living Wow Out Loud. I hope you leave today empowered to live your best life and thrive. If you're ready to jump in and learn a little bit more about Living Wow, come check out the Living Wow Center. That's LIVINGWOWCENTER.com. And maybe consider joining our next Living Wow Challenge. We run the 1st to the 10th of every single month. See you soon.